In the day's other headlines, much of the country is bracing for what weather officials are calling an expansive weekend winter storm as frigid temperatures and snow are hitting the Great Lakes and parts of the Northeast. So-called lake effect snow is already pummeling places like upstate New York, causing whiteout conditions on the roads. By Friday, Arctic air will reach farther south, with more than 24 states expected to see some combination of heavy snow, freezing rain, and ice through Sunday. Forecasters warn the weather could knock out power and heat to hundreds of thousands of Americans and disrupt travel for days. Nearly 20 nations have now said they will join President Trump's Board of Peace. That's according to an Associated Press tally. Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Egypt, Jordan, Indonesia, Pakistan, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates issued a joint statement today saying they've accepted Trump's invitation. Earlier, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he would join after his office initially objected to the makeup of its members. And Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni says Italy needs more time to consider the invitation due to constitutional concerns, but she remains open to joining. Meanwhile, Sweden and France said today they won't take part. A court in Japan sentenced the man who killed former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe to life in prison today. Tetsuya Yamagami admitted to assassinating Abe during a campaign event in 2022 in a bid to expose ties between Japanese politicians and a controversial South Korean church. The 45-year-old is said to have blamed the Unification Church for his family's financial problems after his mother began making massive donations and neglecting her family. Yamagami's lawyer said the sentence was regrettable and did not take into account his client's difficult upbringing.
The aspect most closely tied to the motive for this crime is, to put it simply, the misery he endured since his minor years due to his mother joining the Unification Church.
Yamagami's lawyers say they'll consider an appeal after consulting with their client. A judge in Virginia has temporarily blocked government officials from reviewing materials seized from a Washington Post reporter's home last week. The raid was part of an investigation into a Pentagon contractor who's accused of illegally handling classified information. The Post has also asked a federal court to force the government to return electronics taken from her home, writing that, quote, the outrageous seizure chills speech, cripples reporting, and inflicts irreparable harm every day the government keeps its hands on these materials. A hearing is scheduled for February 6th. A Texas jury heard closing arguments today in the trial of one of the first officers on the scene of the Uvalde school shooting in 2022. Prosecutors urged the jury to convict former schools officer Adria Gonzalez for failing to protect children that day.
That if you have a duty to act, you can't stand by while a child is in imminent danger.
Gonzalez has pleaded not guilty to 29 counts of child abandonment or endangerment. His attorneys argue he was not responsible for the shooting that left 19 children and 2 teachers dead.
The memory of those children that I agree should be honored is not honored by an injustice in their name. It's not.
Gonzalez was one of nearly 400 officers on the scene at Robb Elementary School. It took more than an hour for a team to breach a classroom and kill the gunman. Astronaut Suni Williams, whose extended stay at the International Space Station grabbed worldwide headlines, has retired after 27 years at NASA. Williams and her crewmate, Butch Wilmore, were meant to spend a week in space in 2024, but problems with Boeing's new Starliner capsule extended their stay to 9 months. Williams visited the ISS 3 times and holds the women's record for the most spacewalking time with more than 62 hours. Separately, a Russian cosmonaut still on board the space station posted this stunning footage of the northern lights from earlier this week. He said it felt like they were sailing inside the light. Nathan's Famous Hot Dogs is being sold to packaged meat giant Smithfield Foods in a deal worth $450 million. The Coney Island icon started as a stand more than a century ago, selling 5-cent hot dogs. More recently, it's faced pressure from rising prices. Shares of Nathan's closed more than 8% higher after the news. Elsewhere on Wall Street today, investors cheered news that Trump's tariff threats over Greenland may be fading. The Dow Jones Industrial Average gained nearly 600 points. The Nasdaq jumped around 270 points. The S&P 500 recovered about half of yesterday's losses. And pop superstar Taylor Swift is among this year's inductees to the Songwriters Hall of Fame. At the age of 36, Swift is the second youngest inductee ever and the youngest woman. She'll be joined by Alanis Morissette, whose alt-rock angst dominated the 90s, Kenny Loggins, known for movie soundtracks like Footloose and Top Gun, Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley of the rock band Kiss, as well as non-performers like Christopher Tricky Stewart, hitmaker for Beyoncé, Mariah Carey, and more. An official induction ceremony will be held in New York in June. Still to come, on the NewsHour, the mayor of St. Paul, Minnesota, discusses protests in response to President Trump's immigration crackdown. We examine how the affordability crisis has evolved a year after President Trump took office. And a new exhibition explores the unexpected connections between art and sports.
This is the PBS NewsHour from the David M. Rubenstein Studio at WETA in Washington, headquarters of PBS News.
Wait just a second, we have one more thing to share.
We want to say a heartfelt thank you for watching and supporting PBS News.
Without you, we simply wouldn't be able to provide the news and the information that you trust.
So thank you from everybody here at PBS News.
Support journalism you trust. Support PBS News. Donate now, or even better, start a monthly contribution today.